Call the meeting to order.
All right, we'll let a couple people come in as you're signing in or coming in. Please sign in. We're going to start off with roll call after I click that. So Vice Chair Kennedy,
Here.
Chair Rocha is absent. Mike Fan,
Here.
Randy Goodman,
Here.
Luther Kraxberger,
Here.
Anthony Teeters,
Here.
and Arnold Urias. I haven't seen him come in yet, but we might get him in a bit. So I'm going to give a bit of a rundown of the forum of this evening as well as the tools we're using. So we do have people on Teams watching this virtually as well. Our Teams participants will participate through our platform Mentimeter. So as we go through, it has the website, and the next slide will have the QR code as well. Again, if you decide that you want to participate virtually through this platform later, you can always sign in or log in through that code. So welcome to the Workforce Housing Forum. Today's purpose is to let the community know what the committee has been working on, why it's needed, and to answer questions and receive feedback from the public. We want to thank our community stakeholders who are here from our local healthcare, schools, municipalities, and more. And thank you to the citizens who are taking time out of your day for being here. The format of this forum will be that the committee members will be discussing issues that they've been working through to find solutions for. There will be interactive polls throughout the presentation, so please take a minute to scan the QR code on the next slide. This will allow you to participate. There is a Q&A through it. For those in person, we do have public speaker cards if you do not want to participate through the Q&A through the platform. Please, if you want to speak, bring your public speaker card up to me. Following the presentations from our committee members, we will have a question and answer period. For speakers who are in person, you will be limited to 3 minutes just so we make sure everybody has time. And then after the Q&A session, the committee members will be able to walk around and speak with people individually as well. We encourage everyone to visit the workforce housing page on Participate Prescott and complete the survey on that site as well. So here is the slide that has the QR code. If anybody would like to participate through there, again, there is the code to participate on each slide as we go through. So I'll give everybody just a minute for that. And committee members, you're welcome to participate through your phones as well. All right. And I think as we've seen them come in, you can also like. Everybody likes the like button. So I'm going to keep this on a positive note and put in lots of likes, apparently. All right. So we're going to start off with an interactive poll of how would you describe Prescott in one word? Now, the whole point of workforce housing is that we are all part of this community or neighboring communities. We're all here for a reason. We moved here or stayed here for a reason. So we just want to get a little feedback from those participating virtually. And if we just stick with home, we're okay with that too. So just to remind us why we're all here and that we're all here to work together to make Prescott stay a beautiful, wonderful place. All right. All good things. So in 2022, a bit of background on the committee itself. The City Council decided that workforce housing is an issue in our communities and established the Workforce Housing Committee to look at solutions. The committee has done a lot of work and research into what workforce and workforce housing means in our area, and the committee and council approved these following definitions. So first is the workforce definition, and workforce housing definition will follow. I will not do death by PowerPoint, so I'll let everybody take a minute to read that. And we did update it from our initial one just to put in the FY24 data from the census. And at any point, members, if you would like to comment on anything, please chime in anytime. All right, so workforce housing refers to residential properties such as apartments or homes Looking into this issue and talking with the committee, they've determined it's going to take a lot of solutions. There is not a one size fits all to fix workforce housing issues. So now on to, from what you've seen and from what you've experienced living in the Prescott area, what do you see as the biggest barriers to workforce housing in Prescott? And the neat thing about all of this platform too is it collects all the responses, so we'll be able to have those on Participate Prescott later as well. All right. So on that note, I will then hand it over to Member Kraxberger to start us off on committee goals.
Thank you. First, we'll go over some long-term goals. It's pretty straightforward, but to facilitate and partner with and creating a tangible product, obviously we need something that actually you can live in. And so we need to figure out how to create that and demonstrate the viability of it. We've looked at some city-owned property that could go along with that and met with some developers to kind of collaborate on something along those lines. Various organizations throughout the city and what that partnership might look like. Nothing's finalized on that, but that's the direction we're taking it. As far as creating a regional workforce housing strategic plan, obviously it's not just a city of Prescott problem. This is a regional problem, so it's something we're going to work collaboratively with. There's a needs assessment and housing plan. Those are in process, thanks to the grant from the State Housing Trust Fund. Staff worked on. We're looking forward to collaborating with the surrounding communities on that. Identifying the number of housing units need, that'll be part of that. That grant program will help us work on that. And we know there's a need, but we do need to quantify it. The next slide, short-term goals. We're going to be, with that grant, pursuing some matching funding from full-time workforce housing facilitator participation, or a third party, or a trust along those lines that can help move that together and really dial in what the needs are and how to address them in a economic kind of way. We'd like to partner with a third party on something along those lines. We do need to formalize that third party stakeholder organization group. That's something that we're working on and creating. You know, there's more than just the city that can participate in this. There's a lot of organizations and companies that have a stake in affordable housing for their workforce. So that's really something we're working on. The city has put out an RFP for the workforce housing consultation. We're working on getting that dialed in. With the city, we are going to be building a housing plan and an implementation plan that can get us where we need to go as far as workforce housing. We're going to be holding more stakeholder meetings to address those needs and discussions with those people and their employers. So that's the short term.
All right, Member Goodman, you're up.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. I've never seen this many people at one of our meetings. This is awesome. And on a serious note, I think workforce affects all of us. You know, the workforce services us, takes care of us, whether it's nurses, firemen, police officers, or the person that works at the general store or the grocery store. So it affects all of us. I think it's an issue we need to address, and I'm really happy to see so many people here. You're all making us a little nervous up here, but that's okay. We'll get through it. Some other short-term goals that, to expand on what Luther said, is that we were able to work with the general housing plan and have input with them regarding the city, and specifically with ADU units or a guest house. Basically, that's what that means. Currently, guest houses aren't legal in our codes to rent full-time. in the city. They can be rented for short-term rental, and that's a statewide policy. So vacation rental, VRBO, Airbnb, you can do it, but you can't do it full-time, which is kind of doesn't make sense to me. If we were to get that approved by council, then that could immediately open up some housing for our workforce right away. Wouldn't have to build anything, they're already there. And maybe somebody that's interested in having that built in their yard would go ahead and do it. And that would provide some pretty quick housing for our workforce. So we feel that's super important. The next thing that we talk a lot about and that we're working on passionately is we want to prepare packets. So if you're a developer, a landowner, and you're interested in workforce, or a parcel of your land could be done for workforce, we want you to be able to come to City Hall, hand you an informational packet that explains what you need to do and that how we're going to work with you to help this happen. And we also want to create packets for the workforce itself so they know what's available to them. If there's financial assistance available to them, how do I get into a workforce housing? So those are two things that we're passionately working on. We're working with our stakeholders. We need them. Let me back up and say this, guys. I'm a builder, developer, not as big as him, but I do okay. So I understand the cost of building. I understand the cost of developing land and purchasing land, and it just doesn't pencil. We need our stakeholders to get involved with us to help make this happen. Otherwise, I don't financially see how we can pull this off. So it takes all of you in this room and all of us sitting up here working together with businesses here in town that have a vested interest in having these people live here so they can work here to get this done. So that's super important for us. So financial solutions to get the workforce with our stakeholders is a very important element. And we spend a lot of time on this, right, guys? I mean, a lot of time. Mike, maybe you want to comment about it. I don't know. Mike knows an awful lot about it. He works on it a lot. So, but finally, the last thing for me to say to you tonight, well, there's a couple more things actually, is going back to this ADU code revision. City Council's looking at it right now. They just reviewed it. They haven't approved it. I mean, if you have a feeling about it, I hope you can express that. My feeling is that we need to do this because, like I said before, it'll open up housing right away. And the last thing I'm going to say before I kick the ball to the next is I just want you to know that we're very passionate about this. We've been on this committee for a year and a half now or something? I don't know. Long time. We meet regularly. I don't miss meetings. It's a passionate thing for me. It looks like it's passionate to you. And we are going to have some openings coming up because some people's terms are going to end. So if you have an interest and you have an idea, come to us. Apply. Be part of our community. Be part of the solution. Because like I said before, this isn't going to fix itself. It's going to take all of us together to make this happen. And if we do that, we're smart people. We'll be able to make it happen.
Thanks, Randy. Amber, can you comment on when that application window closes?
So no pressure, but tomorrow. So no time like the present. If you want to be part of this committee, put in your application tonight. It'll go to or in the morning, it'll go to the council subcommittee on appointments, and they'll review all of the ones they receive and appoint committee members. Terms are up. The next ones, I believe, are 2027. But yes, so if you want to act now, tomorrow's your day.
Aren't you glad I pitched that tonight, guys?
There's no time like the present. Well, I want to echo Randy's sentiments, and on behalf of the entire committee and the City Council to whom we are serving, I just thank you for being here and being part of this effort because your involvement and your voice really matters. And this problem is huge. I believe personally it's the largest crisis facing our community right now. And it's not just a regional issue. We know this. It's a national issue. But I'm just glad you're here and involved. So thank you. Yeah. We have to hold these buttons the whole time. Okay. My finger's going to get...
I got it.
Thank you, Randy. Okay. So, one of the goals that is also a short-term goal is to talk about our community outreach, which is really what we're doing right now today, right? We're here with you. And there are some packets that are peppered around the chairs that reflect some of the language, because it's really important that when we come together on this issue, we have unified language and we understand really what workforce housing is. It's not subsidized housing. We're targeting our shrinking middle class, the average person who works here who simply can't afford to live here. So I want to make that really clear. And I encourage you to read that packet because it really helps to inform and explain why. Why do we need workforce housing? Some of them are very obvious, right? It's economic development. It stabilizes the workforce. It supports our educational systems. It really does maintain property values. And that's something I want to share because there is a misnomer out there. People are afraid sometimes of the unknown and what might happen when we build new workforce housing projects. What is that going to do to my values? Well, there's an ample body of research out there that shows very clearly that it does not detract from your value. What really matters is the quality of the project and how that project is managed. So it doesn't matter if it's multifamily, it matters the quality and how it's managed. So just to keep that in mind. Going to the second goal. I'm not in order, sorry. The other goal is talking about a home of my own program. That's currently a program that the county has been implementing for the past several years as an option. To Amber's point earlier, we need a lot of solutions. One of these is a low-hanging fruit that we felt as a committee we could tackle pretty quickly. The town of Prescott Valley is already using it, as well as the county. And what these are pre-approved plans. There is a set of 6 different plans that have already been through the process of the pre-approval process, which means you can expedite the timing on it, which really saves you money in the long term. And we're all about saving time and saving money and looking at these solutions. And the third goal, which personally I feel is probably one of the most important goals that we're looking at as a committee, is really what does it mean? We can do small things. We can bring people together. We can have conversations and build engagement. But until we have policy change, nothing is really going to change at the city level. So the time is now with the committee that we're looking at sample policy language that we'll be presenting to council on May 27th. Okay, I need a drink. And this policy includes a variety of areas. Most specifically, it's addressing the cost of development. It's clear, as Randy has shared, and others that are in the room that know very well, that are builders and developers, it simply doesn't pencil to build attainable housing. So what does that look like? And for the city to have some skin in the game is really going to be important for us going forward. It's going to take all of us coming together with multiple solutions. So some of these areas for policy consideration are development fee incentives, prioritization and expedited review, modification of development standards, zoning, water policy, employee incentives, and a pre-approved plans program. I want to emphasize how important your voice is in this process. And part of the reason we asked you to come today is to start having this conversation with the people that are in your circle of influence. Because when it comes time to have that meeting on May 27th, I hope that this room and the parking lot is standing room only, because we need to hear from you. I believe personally what's been happening with our volunteer committees and even our council, the voices that they hear are only the voices of no's. And I'll give you an example of a recent project that was presented to our planning and zoning committee. There was I believe, 90-unit multifamily project that was proposed at the old county building near Marina Street. And the majority of that parcel, it's over 3 acres, was already zoned high-density multifamily. The request was to add a little sliver of it was maybe 10%, don't quote me on numbers here, of that parcel to be also zoned like the rest of the parcel. And the reason for that request was so that the entire property would be built at a 2-story level instead of 3 stories. The committee only heard from the people who didn't want the project, didn't want it for a variety of reasons, traffic, etc. And now, because that's all they heard, I'm guessing they voted against it. So now it'll be a 3-story development in the middle of a residential mixed-use neighborhood. So once again, I just want to implore you, please share with your friends, share with your colleagues, anyone that you can think of that has a reason to care about the future of this community. I moved here when I was in 2nd grade, and I can tell you right now, my son, growing up, he's not going to be able to afford a place to live. I know your kids, your grandkids are going to have the same problem if we don't come together and really be united around this issue. So thank you.
All right. I think I'm lucky I actually don't have a button I have to hold. I've been holding it this whole time. As you've heard from the committee, there are some things we reference to. All of our committee meetings can be watched on YouTube. All of the planning and zoning meetings can be watched on YouTube, previous ones, current ones. So if you have any questions about anything that's come up today, we'll have some information as well about Participate Prescott, which has all of our documents as well and links to all of our videos. So we want all city functions, all city meetings and public meetings to be easily accessible. My information will be on the last slide. If for some reason you can't get to it, technology is not my friend every day, call me and I will walk you through to where that is. So we're going to go through a couple more interactive things and then we'll get to hearing from you, which is really what tonight is about. We talk about this all the time, but we want your feedback. So this is kind of a fun one. What solutions do you feel have the greatest potential impact? So you can drag a little pin through the app and put it on one of them, a couple of them. You'll see it when somebody does it. Who's going to be our first pinner? There we go. So public-private partnership, employee-backed housing, rent and down payment assistance. So we'll let that populate a little bit. And again, our contact information will be at the end of this. If you think of something that comes up later that you're like, I really want the committee to know this, you can contact me. I'll send it out to the committee. There's not anything filtered between staff and them. All right. So hearing what they've had to say, and from what you know about workforce housing, are there any solutions you would like to see that maybe haven't been discussed today, or that you don't know if the committee's discussed them, that you would like the committee to look into? This would be your time to throw that up on the screen. Down payment assistance, no permit fees. And I can't speak to a lot of this, but our community development experts are always working with us to look at different solutions and what we can do and not do as well. All right. Give it just a second more. There we go. It's fantastic ideas. Thank you all for participating and trying this platform. It seemed kind of fun. Oh, what does that say? Press space. Ooh. Oh no. And that's what happens when you click buttons that you don't know what they do. There we go. Okay. No. So all of the responses are collected. And if we go back, it should... Okay, they are collected, I promise. But it's encouraging us to go on to the next one. What fears do you have regarding housing in our area? Have you experienced having issues finding housing? Has your family had issues finding housing? Do you have fears about your kids or grandkids living even in the area, not just in Prescott? So we want to hear your fears. Are you worried about apartment complexes coming up in your backyard? We want to know what things you fear when it comes to housing, whether it's something the committee agrees with, disagrees with. We want to hear it all. And committee members, feel free to speak to any of these that come up, if any of them that you're passionate about. It's going to apparently limit us on how many we can see right now, but all of the responses will get sent to the committee after this as well.
This is great participation.
But wait, there's more. Sorry. How important do you feel that the issue of housing is to Prescott's future? And again, we want the good, the bad, the ugly. We want how you actually feel, because we work in directions and the committee works in directions that they're passionate about, but this is a community topic that we want to make sure that we're all working together to work in a direction that is healthy. All right, looks like we might be sitting at a 4.9. Okay.
Amber,
Yes.
this is something these guys hear from me all the time and I'm really passionate about. We talk a lot about our police, fire, nurses, teachers, which are all important, but small business is super important. Small business makes this country run. It makes this city run. Small business needs employees. Those employees that's going to serve you when you go in there. Do you want to wait an hour or do you want to wait 5 minutes? So small business employees have to be part of the solution when you think about this.
All right. So as questions come up, we will work. I've got my IT friend back there helping us get through these too. But all of our virtual attendees, please use the Menti app to put in your questions. And then after we go through the questions we receive on here, we will allow public comment from those in person. So again, if you would like to publicly comment not through the platform, please fill out a form and bring it up to me during this time. Oh, all right. So will you be looking at the point in time numbers to determine the number of units needed? Now, I am not the expert to talk about point in time numbers, but does everybody know generally what that is? It's usually, I think, done by the state to determine the amount of homelessness in the area at a certain point in time. That's the extent of my knowledge on that one. But so that'd be for you committee members.
Well, I can't specifically answer that question probably the way that it was intended, but part of the housing needs study that's going on is going to be identifying what that number is. So we will have a number.
All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. Can you give an example of stakeholders that you refer to? And I can speak to this, or you guys can. It's up to you.
Yeah, I was pushing for that stakeholders group. So the hospital, the school district, local public agencies, obviously the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, and then it just goes from there. The colleges. I mean, all of the major employers have a pretty unique interest in making sure we can house the people that make us the community that we are.
All right. What are unique solutions that are being tried that have come to your attention that might not be at the forefront of this conversation?
Well, that's a good one. We have been doing a lot. I mean, so when I started on the committee, it was interesting because I looked at workforce housing as okay, let's build housing to help our workforce that is affordable. And then we started learning about, well, what about down payment assistance? And there are programs, and there's a organization in Flagstaff that they came and spoke with us and said, hey, we found that once you get over that first major hurdle of a down payment, these people do fine after that. So working with them with down payment assistance. Others have provided subsidies, and the employer has helped their new employee with a subsidy to help them afford to live in the community that they work. So we've learned a lot on various methods to attack, whether it's rental homes, whether it's rental apartments, whether it's homes to build, whether it's condominiums. We've looked at a lot of different ways to attack the problem. So we're always willing and all ears if we've not investigated one to hear more.
Down payment assistance, in my view, is super important. I see the police chief sitting out there. Retention of employees is tough. If we could get involved in a down payment assistance program, say we hired a new police officer, right? They do a 1-year probation. Now they're eligible for down payment assistance. We create the down payment assistance program. They pay us back over time, 5 years. They got to sign a contract with us for 5 years not to leave. Police chief retains that employee. It costs us a lot of money to train those people. And when that money leaves with that person, it's just gone. So if we can retain that person, we save that money, the training money that we spent, and we keep a good employee. And what's interesting, this is passionate to me, I was 30 years in the fire service, is once you spend 5, 6, 7 years with an agency, you typically don't leave because you become invested. You're vested in the community. You're part of it. You live here. You work here. You're part of it, and you don't want to leave. Some guys do leave for promotions in other departments. Okay, that's later in their career, but typically they don't leave. So we retain those employees, and we could really solve our employee problem. We had the police or the assistant chief here, 4 or 5 months ago, told us we had 16 openings on our police department. We had 4 applicants. That's it. How do we fill 16 openings? The department that I worked for, we had the same problem, so we backfilled it with overtime. Well, that works for a while. Employees make more money, it's great. But then this thing called burnout comes along because they're working too much. And then they get hurt on duty, and that costs even more money because now they're off on industrial injury leave. Or they make a stupid mistake because they're fatigued, and the city gets sued because of something that happened. So this is a snowball that's rolling downhill, and it's going to catch up to us. And I feel strongly, and I think Mike feels the same way, down payment assistance would be an excellent way to keep those employees here. And also remember, down payment assistance, they own that property now. They've got skin in the game. You're worried about what the neighborhood might look like? They own that house. They don't just rent it, they own it. So now they have a vested interest in maintaining the quality of the neighborhood.
All right. I like this. Consider the brain drain of young professionals leaving the area due to the expensive housing. So, something to keep in mind. I'm curious, what are your guys' perspective of brain drain?
I think Embry-Riddle students is a great example of college students that graduate here. And so I graduated high school at Prescott High in 1975, a little while ago. 50 years ago. We're working on our 50-year class reunion, as a matter of fact.
They have cars then?
They had cars. But I think it was before Bradshaw and before Chino High, and we were one of the last classes that everybody bussed into town. So we had a class of 400, and I will tell you, maybe 50 of us stuck around because there wasn't opportunity here, and the cost of living here, even back then, was not great, mainly because the jobs and the housing didn't match up. So Elliot Pollock came up here and talked to a bunch of folks in the community, and we talked about what makes a great community, and one of those things is when you look at growth and affordability, is to have a community that welcomes families, welcomes kids, and we don't price ourselves, which is kind of where we've been going, to I hate to say elite, but for lack of a better word, an elitist community where families can't live there. And I would venture to guess everybody in this room says that's not the community I would like either. We want a community that is good for moms and dads and kids and everybody. So this is not only such an important issue to make sure that we have the service industry out there to help our quality of life, but we have a thriving and good community, a community that we're proud to live in.
All right. How to combat NIMBYism. So for anyone who might not know what NIMBYism is, it's not in my backyard-ism. So a lot of times people assume that it may not look like the neighborhood they moved into, that the product might be lower quality, things like that. So they say, we definitely want it, just not in my backyard. Put it somewhere else. So I'll let Nicole speak to that one.
Okay. I think it's an ongoing process of education and bringing people together. just like we're doing here with you today, to educate on the truth around what it means to build workforce housing, that it doesn't detract from values, to really hear from them, though, too, because they might have different concerns. And I think once we do identify projects, the committee has talked about our role in being, ambassadors to that. And so being involved in maybe neighborhood meetings and those kinds of things, and just really having a lot of conversation and addressing those fears.
I echo a lot of that, and I think a lot of what would combat NIMBYism is education, being educated on the project that's coming up, and actually understanding what it means. The apartment complex that you highlighted is a great example. There's no more units there than would have been there anyway. And so it's just an education process of saying, well, what am I saying no to, or what am I saying yes to? What can we do that actually promotes community, and how can we all work together to that end? The other thing that I like to highlight is that everybody lives in a house. So at one point in time, that house wasn't there. So somebody else was the NIMBY in that scenario. But, we just have to educate people, help them understand what that means when a new project is proposed, and at some point in time it'll get developed, and it may not be something that you can input on at that time. So be a part of that conversation, not a detriment to it.
Another thing I'd like to bring up is when I talk to people, they say, well, I don't want low-income housing in my neighborhood. This is not low-income housing. I'm 76 years old, and if an EMT lives in my back house, I'm good with that. Or a cop, or a teacher. This isn't homeless people housing. We're trying to get a workforce in this town that will stay, will become part of the community, because if this community becomes old people, we're going to die. We need youth, both kids, teenagers, 20-year-olds, 30, 40, 50, 60. And if anybody asks you about this, please don't say low income. It is not low income. And that's the biggest negative that I get when I chat with people out there. That's the first thing. I don't want low income. And that's not what we're talking about here. Correct?
Yeah, just to back up what Tony said, when we started as a committee, we used that term a little bit, low-income housing. We had to school ourselves. By definition, if you look it up, workforce housing has a total different definition than low income. So we had to practice not saying low income. We've gotten pretty good at it. And we actually have talked to council about the same thing. Please use the term workforce. So when you go out of here tonight and talk to your friends about this meeting, please use that term, because that's exactly what it is.
So this one kind of falls into the similar category. Will leadership be able to get on board with messages that discourage NIMBYism, such as we have members of the workforce currently living in shelters and they deserve housing as well?
That's who we're shooting for. I mean, if they're working, we're not here, or the committee is not, our focus is not solving homelessness. Our committee is focused on providing affordable workforce housing. So if there's somebody that's in the workforce that's living in a shelter, that's the person we want to help.
And I would say on this, whether, depending on your feelings on this, one way or another, we encourage all people with every opinion to come to public meetings, come to the workforce housing meetings, come to the council meetings, planning and zoning. That will let all of our leadership know where the public is. So, call to action on that one. But, okay, hold on, we're going. Okay, if we have children to serve and a great retirement community, who's going to serve these retirees? There is not housing for working age. More than 684 children are homeless in Quad City. All right. So, and we can, if you guys want to think about it, we can always put input out at the next committee meeting too. So, we can.
Well, I don't know if that was a question or a statement. It looked like it was supporting to the way I read it was spot on to what we're trying to do. We will not have the service, or we will not have nursing. We will not have the health care we need. And one thing we've heard also is making sure we have a good education system so we can attract doctors that want to bring their kids and raise their kids here. So it's such an interlocking and important issue because it hits our healthcare industry. It hits our educational. It's all tied together, I guess is what I'm trying to poorly say.
All right. How will you keep housing affordable with only have for-profit companies involved?
Well, I think it's not just for for-profit companies. These policies that we're going to be recommending can apply whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit developer. One of the important pieces that we're looking at in the policy recommendations is that element of accountability. And so you can't just go and receive an incentive to build something at a lower cost and then turn right back around and sell it or rent it to somebody that's outside of the parameters that we've defined. So there is an element of that we've been looking at, and it's a very important part of the plan.
Yeah, and that's spot on to a lot of the discussions we've had on how do we get there. My opinion is we don't get there without some support, whether government support or philanthropic support. There's a gap between what it costs to build a house and keeping that house affordable. So getting there is likely going to have to be addressed through assistance, and that assistance is going to come from us one way or another. And then the next part of that is then keep it affordable. So we've talked a lot about how we do that. Is that through some sort of a trust or some sort of an authority? Because if we sell houses at below market value, we want them to stay at below. We want them to stay affordable. So that's something that we've been working on a lot. Implementation's not going to be easy. But to whoever asked that question, that's one thing we've spent a lot of time with. Not there yet, though.
All right. Number of units needed will not be a static number. I think that's going to come up as we go through the housing needs assessment, housing plan that will hopefully give us a plan to keep addressing numbers as they change. But any comments on that one? Okay. Is there a way to Nope, it's too late today. Is there a way to ensure workforce housing remains reasonable?
Yeah, I think I addressed that. We're working on how to do that. It's whether it's deed restrictions, whether it's a trust where you buy the home but you only rent the land it sits on. There are several methods that other people have used, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to learn from other folks and organizations' experience.
So this next one is, what are the hurdles in regard to City Council approving long-term rentals in guest houses or ADUs? So I know we have our Community Development Director, Chelsea Walton, got up before I even said anything. Oh, come on up. Yeah.
Good evening, committee members, Vice Chair. So this question is a very interesting one. So there was a late change in the legislature last year that now allows long-term rentals for ADUs. However, after a visit to the state capitol, that was not an intended change that would affect all communities of all sizes. So the way the legislature wrote the original bill would have that piece of legislation apply to only communities 75,000 population and over. However, the way it got put into law did not come out that way. And so we've heard that there's a movement at the Capitol to have it corrected, which means that right now the state says that renting ADUs long-term is okay, the way it's written in the law, but we're waiting to see what the legislature does this session, if that's going to be corrected or not. So a little bit of a nebulous question, and I know council is very keen on looking at this, but at the last council meeting, it was undecided. So hope that answers the question.
Local aging population, many who are on a fixed income could benefit financially and socially from renting rooms to individuals who need it. Sounds like a good comment. Can city leverage water allocations to ensure workforce housing? So we have looked at that. The committee has heard from our water department and has looked at that option as well as part of the policy and possibly part of the water policy. So stay tuned at future workforce housing meetings on that one. Do you guys have any comments on that? All right. Can you clarify why this is not Section 8 or low-income housing? And I will let you guys all speak to that. I know that we had our definitions up here. They are on Participate Prescott, www.Participate Prescott. There's a workforce housing tab that has all of that information if you want to refer back to it later as well, but I'll let you guys speak to this question.
So we specifically targeted the gap. Section 8 housing is below 60%. So that, I guess, is as simple as I could answer. Oh, I'm sorry, of area median income. Thank you, Luther. So 60% of our area median income, which changes in our county, changes every year. So those numbers will change.
So we talked about this a little bit well, maybe not in this phrasing, but that the committee is looking at different solutions to ensure that it remains workforce housing. Do you have any other comments on that one?
No, I'm speaking for myself. I don't, but that's a great question. That is a great question. It's something that we need to keep in mind as we move forward.
If you come up with any good ideas, let us know.
All right, what sort of incentives have you discussed for small business to partner with the city in this need? We're open to ideas.
Well, we have discussed with the building department, planning and zoning, water. Is there part of the permit process that we can waive? Impact fees, we cannot. That's a state deal. We can't change those. City can pay them, but we can't waive them. There are things we can do, but I see Michael Taylor sitting right there. He'll appreciate this. We need to expedite. Part of development is the time spent waiting to get approvals, waiting to get your permits in line, waiting to break ground on your project. That all costs money. Time is money. You own the land. Maybe you're paying them some kind of mortgage on it or you're not. I don't know, but time costs money. So there's going to be a lot of cooperation, I think, at City Hall to expedite these kinds of projects to get them through fast, which will save them some money and help them out, help the developers out. I mean, right, guys? I heard that pretty loud and clear when we met with city personnel.
All right, we talked about stakeholders. 20 to 35% of building costs are due to permit fees and regulations. What is Prescott doing to resolve this issue?
That's why we need you to show up on May 27th, guys, so that our leadership, our elected leadership knows that enough people care about this issue and we need to do something to move the needle. The city has to have some skin in the game, just like the private entities have to have some skin in the game in order to make this pencil, whether it's philanthropy dollars, but public dollars have to be a part of this if we really want to make a difference.
Okay, might be restarting. Okay. All right, so I only have one public speaker card for anybody. So if anybody else would like to public speak in the room, now would be a great time to fill out that card and bring it on up. But Peter DeCrassel, if you want to come up, and then we'll do 3 minutes. I'll be nice about giving you warnings, though.
Thank you. My name is Peter DeCrassel. I am the founder of Breaking Housing Matters, an Arizona 501c3. I've written a book with a paradigm shift, sea change solution on housing. I've given copies there to be distributed to each one of you. It is a solution that several cities around the country are looking at. And actually, my books are titled Custom Made, spell M-A-I-D. And when I was asked by a city council member here in Prescott on September 24, when I proposed my Breaking Housing Matters solution, which I will propose to you, I was asked if MAID was a typo and why am I talking about MAID spelled M-A-I-D. So I will quote what I told the city council to you. We the maids, the people who repeatedly clean up the government's mess and pay the cost, who must sweep out current housing policies and start building affordable housing profitably. It's doable. I am a writer and a political strategist, but I have been a lawyer, builder, developer, and I'm a very proud Prescott homeowner. The solution is not easy. I echo and endorse everything each and every one of you have said here, but that doesn't come up with a solution. It is just more rehash of what has happened. If you look at what the number one point was of interest is public-private partnership. Every housing policy in existence today is a public housing policy. One of the main reasons it has failed. It must be a partnership between the public and private sector, and the program must be run by the private sector, an individual, male or female, who understands real estate and or finance, or ideally both. The 5 stakeholders, because something you have both or all mentioned is about policy change or strategic view of something. And what I am proposing is, like I said, a sea change, a paradigm shift. And there are 5 stakeholders involved in what I propose as a housing subsidy solution that like I said, I submitted to the city on September 24th, and you have in the book in front of you. There are 5 stakeholders. One is the city. I am trying to get a pilot city to take it to the federal level.
All right, we're at 3 minutes, sorry.
And so it's public-private partnership, philanthropy, landlord developers, bankers, and religious organizations. All details in the book. Thank you for listening to me.
All right, Dick Milan? Milan. All right. Thank you.
It's my turn.
Okay.
My name is Dick Milan, and I'm a certified SCORE mentor with SCORE. SCORE is part of the SBA, and we've got about...
Sorry, can you lift the mic just a little bit, just to make sure our listeners at home can hear
We've
you?
got about...
Good catch.
Let's see, how are we working here? Does that work?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. So we've got about 25 mentors around that cover northern Arizona. My background has been hospitality in hotels and restaurants, and for the last 8 months, you know, we've formed a group which we've called the Prescott Area Hospitality Collective. So if you've been to recently Rose's, County Seat, Barley Hound, Farm Provisions, Essence, Torme, and so forth, all of these owners have collectively been part of this group that, you know, we're working on a program and setting up a internship program that we're looking at and a pilot program starting this spring. So with that being said, we're going to be partnering up with Yavapai College, utilizing the dorms during the summertime. But the whole key with this is also to, you know, put your sales hat on and be promoting Prescott to get these young people in. And then it's through the businesses that are putting forth the time and effort to help train these people. And then eventually when they complete school or whatever, they end up staying in Prescott. But I think the key thing is that, you know, it's a vicious circle here that, you know, you have to sell Prescott to the young people. You have to have the jobs, which the hospitality group is doing. And then at the same time, then you've got to be coming up with the type of housing that's going to fit a, you know, a young student or a young person, let's call it. Do they all want houses? Do they want condos? Whatever they want. But I think the key thing is that the hospitality people here have been proactive and are starting it on their own. They're not waiting for anybody else to come up with a program or whatever. And I would, you know, kind of challenge the group to also be proactive. And if these programs work, then you've got a system working, and it becomes a matter of managing the system with it. And I think the template that we've set up for internship programs, Yavapai College has been a big partner, NACOG has been a big piece of it, John Heine has participated with some of the meetings and so forth. And it really becomes a situation where that template can be used for any industry. It just so happens that the hospitality is the vehicle now, but it can turn out to be any part of retail, construction, or whatever it may be. But I just wanted to, create an awareness with that, and I'm going to leave some flyers here that we're utilizing with that. Thank you.
All right, Clint
Would it-
Ewell.
Real quick, would it
Yeah.
be possible to have someone from your group to act as a liaison, and we could get some synergy between what you're doing and what we're attempting to do?
I would be happy to do that on the part of SCORE. I mean, that's what really SCORE does. I mean, we work with the small businesses. A lot of the small businesses in the area here in the Quad Cities and so forth, they're all clients of SCORE's. So, yeah, I'd be happy on that. You've got my business card attached with that. Let me know. I'd be happy to work with that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, good evening. My name's Clint Ewell. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Yavapai College. It was my pleasure to come and speak to the committee last year. And again, I want to thank you for all the good work that you're doing on behalf of the community. Last year, I shared a variety of ideas that the college was exploring, and I thought I'd give you a very brief update this evening. We have moved forward with tiny homes at our Chino campus and at our Clarkdale campus. We are moving forward with a manufactured housing project at our Clarkdale campus as well. Probably the big project that I wanted to share with you, and probably most of you in the room have seen this last spring, but our board did approve moving forward with the purchase of Prescott Pines, which is a summer camp up the Senator Highway. It's only 10 minutes from downtown Prescott. And we're converting that camp ever since into housing for both students and for workforce. At this point, we have 9 workforce houses as well as about 50 to 60 student beds, and we're about halfway done. So the only other thing I'll mention is RVs that we're doing both in Clarkdale and in Chino and up at the Pines. We're planning on having an open house, and we'll be putting information in the newspaper, but I'll give you a heads up right now. On May the 22nd, we'll have an open house at Prescott Pines. We'd love for you all to come and check it out. So thank you.
All right, Don Beal.
Thank you. Name's Don Bealey, longtime resident. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Being retired, I have absolutely no desire to be on the committee. But I do want to share my opinions, and I always have several of those. First being, it's a coincidence that today at 3 o'clock I had a PAC meeting, and it was for an application to change one large apartment building. It's actually 2 stories, from being 1 apartment that's too expensive, nobody wants to rent it, into 2 low-income affordable housing units. And I'll say that the PAC process is somewhat intimidating. It's been a long time since I've been through that. But it made me think, and now that I'm here, I had no intention of speaking to you, but back when I was working and had larger projects, Tom Geis used to be with the city, and he would hold my hand and walk me through these projects. As you, Mr. Teeters, had mentioned, or somebody had, it would be nice if we were a little bit more welcoming to be able to help somebody like myself, a novice, doesn't know much about building, walk us through the process, make things a little bit less intimidating. My little project I left thinking it was going to cost $5,000, it's probably going to be 30 or 40. Another idea is, that I heard when I left my meeting, I told him where I was going this evening. I said, "Do you have any ideas?" He said, "Absolutely. Impact fees. They're too high." Well, yeah, they are. What do we do about it? Lower it for those lesser expensive units to where it's affordable. That's where the public comes in, or the city comes in to help. Another way of doing it would be taxes. We have property taxes. Well, you could lower property taxes in these areas to keep the affordable housing, affordable. There are ways that we can manipulate the system and make it work. Now, please understand, I'm not slamming the development department at all. They're very helpful, but again, it can be intimidating. It would be nice to be able to have a little bit of help getting through the system. So, just food for thought. I'm sure I'll have more ideas, and I'll be glad to share them at a later date. Thank you.
Alex Vakula?
Amber, could I interrupt for just
Absolutely.
a second?
Yeah.
Would you mind explaining to everybody about the grant that we applied for to dovetail on what he just talked about?
Yes. So, well, you might have to tie it into what your thoughts are. But we did apply for a grant through the State Trust Housing Funds. Got $200,000. It's for a housing plan needs assessment and a housing plan building and implementation plan. So right now, we're gathering information for the housing needs assessment. Elliot Pollock, and I might have said that wrong, but they've been amazing. They're here, and they're going to take all the information from tonight as well as part of their information. We are also doing an RFP process to bring on a consultation company so that we can work on having hopefully a nice collaboration of the policy, housing needs assessment, housing plan, and implementation plan to work on all of these different solutions together. Is that where you were?
Well, yeah, basically what you just said. We want to develop packet, personnel, whatever we can do to sort of hold your hand a little bit and help you get through the process, because we want you to be successful with your process.
Yeah, I failed to neglect that. My understanding is we're about to lose George Worley. That will be a huge loss for the city. That man has been incredibly helpful for many years. So, yes, having somebody there to help you and pat you on the back, I need a lot of encouragement.
Yep. All right, Mr. Vakula.
Hello. I echo Don's comments. Thank you for all your hard work. I have opinions, but I'm not putting my name in. My name's Alex Vakula. I'm not here as a lawyer. Julie Bennett and I are here on behalf of the Pronghorn Group. Many of you have already been to our project out in Prescott Valley, and if you haven't, we're having an open house on February 4 at 9 a.m. We have built 140, they're not all built yet. What do we got, 45 right now? We're going to have 140. We have 45 now ready to rent. They're high-quality site-built homes. The rents are about $1,250 right now, and with some foundation help, we're going to be offering a large number of these to essential workers. That includes janitors at the hospital, the clerks at the police station, not just public safety, but essential workers. We're going to be able to drive down that price to about $950 a month. And for those of you who haven't rented in a while, that's unheard of. There's rents that are $1,700 and $1,800. But Pam Bennett here is going to be, do you have anything to say? She's going to be hosting the open house on February 4, 9 a.m. It's at 6301 Baja Circle. And did I call you Pam? Julie Bennett. 928-925-1336. You can call her. She'll be happy to show you the project anytime, including any council members. And if not, we'll have an open house February 4 at 9 a.m., 6301 Baja Circle, Prescott Valley. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. That's all the public comment we have. So back to some interaction. What is one takeaway from you all tonight? And committee members, you can speak to something you have taken away from what the public has said tonight as well.
Well, I don't mean to take over here. The other guys have a lot to say, but one of you came up and said, I hear a lot of the same old stuff, no solutions. Trust me, we get that. And we are working on those solutions hard. We think the answer's out there. We want your input to get that answer, but we do think that answer is out there. And we know that we can sit here as a committee and talk for 2 years and get nothing done. We're not, that's not who we are, especially me. I'm a task-oriented guy, so we are going to get this solution and we are going to get this handled. And to dovetail on what I said earlier about the police officers, I see the fire chief hiding back there. We offered a job to a very qualified firefighter that had to turn it down because he couldn't get housing. So this isn't a crisis that's coming. It's here right now. It's on us right now. So that's why we're so passionate about this, and we are going to come up with solutions.
All right, so just to recap, the City Council study session regarding the workforce housing policy will be on May 27th. We do have committee meetings the first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. right in this room. And we do have a survey we'd love everyone to participate in as part of our housing needs assessment process. The link is there, www.edpco.com. Apparently my eyesight needs some checking, but it's also on our Participate Prescott website as well. Here is some contact information. Once the vice chair adjourns the meeting, there is an opportunity to speak one-on-one. We've got some council members here. We have committee members. We have some of our amazing directors and staff here that would love to talk to everybody. I didn't ask them. I'm assuming they love to because we are all about being nice and part of the community. But they're fantastic. They'd love to talk to you one-on-one. I will ask, try not to get anybody in groups. We are conscious of our open meeting law, so don't gather the committee in a bunch and don't gather our council in a bunch, but past that, they'd love to talk to you all. All right.
Thanks again, everyone, for being here, and meeting is adjourned.